Hey guys, today's video is going to take you through all of the best video settings on the GoPro Hero 10 Black and also some of the basic menu functions. Let's get into the settings. Once we take a look here at the bottom here where it says standard 4K 30 and W, all we got to do is press this and this is going to show us all of our presets. Now the presets are different things. You could have slow motion in here, you could have 2.7K 240, you could have 4K 120, whatever you want to set up. Now these are easily customizable or you can create your own. So if you want to edit an existing one, let's say we want to do standard, we press the little edit icon here on the right and then we're looking at the resolution and the FPS. So here's our resolution and then our FPS is down here. So we can go 60 frames, 120, and let's say we want to go 4K 120 for this one. Let's tap it. Then we have our lens choice. So we can scroll up and down on the default lens for this particular preset. So linear and horizon leveling, this is kind of insane where it'll keep the horizon level at all times. So let's leave it on that one. Then our Hypersmooth. This is the stabilization on the GoPro, so this can be standard, high, or boost. Let's put it on boost. And keep in mind, you're going to get a little bit of crop. Schedule capture, we're going to leave that off. If you want to schedule as capture for that, you can limit the duration. Hindsight is where the camera is always kind of buffering and recording, and it'll record the last couple of seconds once you press record. You have a timer on or off, and then if you have a zoom option, then you can go for that as well. So Protune, this is where you can get into the more professional settings, and this is something that I'm sure lots of you will be like, I don't want to go near that thing. Don't freak out, this is really easy. So bitrate. Put the bitrate to high because the higher the bitrate, then the better the image will look, because especially when there's a lot of motion, you're going to get a higher bitrate and that's going to keep all the pixels a little bit more intact. So the shutter, we can change the shutter speed here to 1/240, 1480, 1960, 160, and whatever you want. I find generally with GoPros, depending if you're using ND filters which affect the stabilization hugely, you're better off leaving this on auto. The EV comp, the exposure compensation. So this is something that you can bring up in plus and minus, -2, and you can go right up to +2. Generally, GoPros kind of overexpose things a little bit, but I'm going to leave this at 0 and I'm going to show you a trick in a second so you can change this on the fly. White balance. You can leave it on auto, but keep in mind if you're making videos, this can shift hugely on the actual clip that you're taking and it can be quite jarring for someone that's there. So again, leave it on auto here, but I'm going to show you an example here on how you can actually do this as well on the fly, so you don't have to be digging into this menu all the time. The ISO, so the brighter basically the sensor is going to get, so we can go all the ways up here to 6400. Keep in mind that with any ISO, then the more brighter it gets, the higher that number, the noisier the image is going to get depending on the camera. So I'm going to leave the minimum ISO at 100 and the maximum. So this is the maximum the GoPro is going to go. Forget about the 6400 setting. This is going to go maximum. I think for me, it's either 400 or 800 at a push. See what works best for you. Then our sharpness. GoPros are really sharp looking video, which means it looks very digital. So do the sharpening in post, drop the sharpness down to low. Our color. So we can have it flat, we can have it vibrant, or we can have it natural GoPro color. Now, try each of these, but if you want a little bit of scope when it comes to actually grading the GoPro, I would suggest putting it on flat. The raw audio is off, so it records standard audio without a raw audio track, creates a raw audio track with minimal processing, so you can put this up to high. Generally, I think the best thing for me is just leave it off, do your audio processing in post. And then on the wind, so any wind reduction on the GoPro, you can have this automatic, you can have it up to off, or you can just have it always on. To be honest, either leave it off or on auto because it does a good enough job. But again, if you want to filter out wind, you're probably going to have to look at one of those dead pussycats to stick on top of your GoPro mic. Now here's where the magic really happens. Remember all those tricks and stuff I was telling you? Well, on the GoPro here, you've got a couple of on-screen options that are always going to be there in the preset that you're using. So the one that's on the lower left, this is going to be the lens. What about the one on the lower right? Zoom, I don't want it on zoom. I want to change this to white balance. So let's scroll down here, white balance, then the one on the upper left. Let's change this to EV comp, and the upper right then is Hypersmooth. So now we have made our GoPro preset, or we've modified an existing one. So I'm just going to go back here, and now we can see we're at 4K 60, And if we select this, we have these options on screen. Remember the exposure compensation? We can now drop this on screen without ever having to dig into the menus. And it's the exact same with the white balance. We can change this up to 6500, or we can make it down to 2300 Kelvin, which is very, very cool. For most parts, daylight is around 54 to 5600 or 5500 or thereabouts. Now, that's modifying an existing setting, and it couldn't be easier to create your own preset from scratch. So tap the preset, scroll all the ways down, select plus. We want video, or do we want a looping mode? So I'm just going to select video, and then we've got all the settings that we want to change here again. How easy was that, just to create a 5.3K 60 FPS GoPro preset? It's that easy. But what about if you want to start moving these things around? So maybe you want your favorite one up the top, or you want to move something else down. Simply tap this icon, the manage icon comes up, and then we can just grab one of these and we can move it to wherever we want. And now any of the changes that we made are there.